Hello, my name is CarbonGM, and this is part one of what I hope to be a series of videos on how to use Blender for VTubers. This is primarily for both making and modifying VRM file type VTuber models. This is something I wanted to put together for a little while now, and I'm just hoping that it can teach you a little bit and save you a little bit of the frustration and headache that comes with starting to use Blender as a complete novice. This is the first time I'm making any sort of long form dedicated YouTube content, so there's not going to be much in the way of frills, YouTuber hype editing. The videos I'm hoping are going to be fairly quick and generally under 10 minutes and probably pretty scuffed. So forgive me for that. Uh, to preface, before all of this, everything in these videos is basically my opinion. It's just how I do things and is a result of me teaching myself how to do all this over the course of years. I could be wrong on things, I could miss something that's kind of vital, and I want to get better at all this just as much as you do. So if you have any questions or anything that you want to make a comment on, please do leave a comment under the video and I will read them. Also, leave a comment if you have anything specific you'd like me to cover in the future. I will read the comments as I can. So, one very important thing to start out with is that VTubing is still relatively new and quite niche. It's the culmination of a lot of different skills in mocap and game dev and animation and things like that. And there's not a lot as far as hardware or software that is designed for VTubing specifically. It's a lot of jury rigging, and that is quite poignant when getting started in Blender because there's a lot of things that you won't use or that you can't use or that you need and don't have, and that's what we're going to be covering first. Things are still changing quickly though. A lot of video guides from 2020 to 2022, like the really early years of VTubing being generalized, are kind of out of date for how to do things now, or at least most efficiently. And well, this video, if you're watching a few years down the line, this one could be out of date too. But that's just how it is. This first part is going to cover installation of Blender and other necessary bits and pieces, as well as foundational information and the very basics on how you start using Blender. This video is quite universal, but it won't always be. If it wasn't evident, I make robots and things like that, which is a little different in some aspects than more mainstream VTuber designs, which statistically you might be looking into. But when those differences come up, I will try to mention it and compensate with whatever information I can at the time. So, obviously, the first thing you need to do, if you haven't already, is install Blender. There's two main ways to do this. You can go to www.blender.org and download Blender right there. It's pretty simple. It's no different than any other program. It has an installer. It's the link should be right there on the homepage. What the homepage actually looks like changes based on when you're looking at it because there's different art for different versions of Blender. The specific version is not super important, but getting the most recent one can hurt. Alternatively, you can install Blender through Steam. It's just on Steam. It is free, and you can just search Blender in the search bar and it'll come right up. All right. So when you start Blender for the first time, you should be looking at a screen like this. It has a blank scene in the background and this box in the center. It might look a little bit different if it's the very first time you've opened Blender, but this hardly matters right now. Any differences that you'll see is about importing preferences from a previous version, like your user settings, which you probably don't have or care about. So you can just click off that for now, and you'll be met with this empty scene. Blender is animation software, and this is set up for animation with a light source and a camera and a default starter cube. So what we can do, just to clear this out, is press A on the keyboard to select all, and then X to delete, and press confirm. Now we're left with a blank slate for when we can fill in with our model. But there's a bit of an issue. Outside of the box, Blender does not know what a VRM file is. We have to tell it what it is. Blender uses something called add-ons. They are basically mods for Blender. There's a lot of functionality that Blender can do out of the box, and there's even more that you can make it do. So we need to install an add-on for the VRM file format. You can do that by going up to Edit in the top left corner and clicking Preferences and going to Add-ons here. I already have a bunch, but you probably only have a few up here. So what you want to do is go to the search bar and type in VRM and get this VRM format. There's some details here and it has its own web page. You just need to enable this. So once you click the little checkbox to enable the add-on, click back into the empty field of the scene and press N. This reveals a little thing on the right here. It is a vertical selection of a bunch of different tools that you can use, and there should be one labeled VRM down here at the bottom now. If this is not here, it has not been enabled or properly installed. Make sure that this is here. And if you can't see this, press N. Similarly, the thing on the left here can be toggled with T, but that's not important right now. Also, before we move on, while you have this preferences box open, keep it on add-ons and search for loop tools. You should just be able to type in loop and it'll come up. And enable this one. This one enables some ways you can mess with meshes, which is the main thing that you use for creating objects. That is the only thing you can export as part of a VRM model. It allows you to manipulate them in certain ways, and it is very useful. It's very fundamental, and I want to make sure that you have it installed right off the bat, mostly because you might run into things like tutorials or other users, or maybe me in the future, who forget that this is not something that you can use out of the box. It enables you to right click on meshes and do things like bridge a gap to fill in an empty space, or to make something into a perfect circle instead of a random array of different points. It's very useful and fundamental, and just something I don't want you to forget. Okay, so the next thing we should do is import our model. I'm assuming you already have one, either a Vroid or a custom one or something that you have. And if you don't, I would recommend that you get one just to learn the basics of Blender, because it can be hard to learn how to move around the scene and to select certain things. And if you plan on making your own model, fantastic. It's a great thing to do. I've done it myself many times, but we need to start simple. So have some VRM file to import for demonstration and for basically just going through this tutorial, if nothing else. If you don't have one, the easiest place to get one is through Vroid. You can just Google VROID and get to the website and learn about it. It is also on Steam. It is a free, basically, character creation tool that you can use to make any sort of anime style avatar that you want. And it exports directly in VRM file format. VRM 0 or VRM 1, both are fine. We'll go over the specifics of those two in a bit. But for now, it's just as easy as getting the .vrm file and dragging it into the program. It may lock up your program for a little bit. It is an intensive process, but you should be left with a T-posed 3D avatar covered in a bunch of weird things called bones that we'll go over later. But you should be able to see your avatar. Okay, so now let's start talking about the most exhaustive part, and that is the controls. This is pretty make or break for beginners, and I am going to be honest with you, I'm a little worried about covering it. I don't really remember what exactly it's like to learn these controls. I did it years ago, and I've been working in the program for a lot longer than I'd like to think about since then. But it is very important to learn, And depending on who you are and if you have any experience with Blender at all before this, it could be very difficult and foreign to you or something you already know. I really do recommend that you spend some time familiarizing yourself with Blender's basic controls. At least to the point where you can maneuver around the scene and look at your model and zoom in and out and around on things that you want to look at and get a basic gist of the controls. However, you need to learn, however works best for you is what works best for you. I'm going to give you a quick rundown here, as well as link a few videos in the description that are a more complete and exhaustive rundown in various different ways of how to use Blender for beginners, mainly focusing on controls, or at least partly. Some of them are quite comprehensive. So consider it a bit of homework to try practicing navigating your model, looking around, zooming in on things, and finding things that you might want to change or modify in the future. It'll be good to get a list of things you want to work on, if nothing else. Okay, but for a basic rundown of what you can do in Blender in this video, one of the most basic things is left click. You can left click on any object to select it, give it a highlight. This is how you tell the program what you're trying to mess with at the moment, because there could be a lot of different things you have in your scene. You can hold and drag left click to select with a box. You can also click W to change how exactly you select it. If you click it once, you'll get this brush tool. Click it again to get a lasso, or again to get an individual picker. And you can change between these with W, just an infinite rotation. You can see what you're using in the top left here. Middle mouse is to rotate. You can rotate in all axes with this. You can kind of see that there's a invisible point in the center of the screen that is the central axis it is rotating around. If you hold shift while holding down middle mouse, you will pan to side and up and down relative to the angle you are looking at. And this will change where the center of the screen is at, and that will change the point of rotation. Scrolling with your middle mouse, the scroll wheel, will zoom in and out, and right click will bring up a context menu. This is very different depending on what mode you're in and what current object you have selected, if any. Oh yes, two other things to note for now is that if you click and highlight on something, you can press on your numpad the period button to view that thing in the center of the screen. So if I press period, it zooms right back in on the center of this object. And if I click on the hair, it zooms right in on the hair. Similarly, how you actually get to editing with things in Blender, which you probably don't want to mess with now unless you're good with the controls, is by changing to edit mode. Right now we're in object mode. That's the default. It's visible up here in the top left. There's a few modes, and there's more depending on what you currently have selected, but by default, it's going to be object and edit mode. So if you have some object selected, you can either go to this drop down on the top left and click edit to reveal the mesh and all of the different points that make up the mesh. And this is how you actually select bits and stretch them around and edit them. You can also quickly change between the two with the tab button. You can kind of combo these together if you want to zoom in on a specific part of one object by just entering edit mode on that object. And if I want to, I don't know, zoom in right on the thumb here, you can just highlight that part of the thumb and press period on the numpad and zoom right into this and zoom out since we're a little close. And if you're starting to feel a little frisky and want to really start looking at the internals of what is going on with the model, you can press Alt Z to toggle X-ray mode, and you will see everything all the way through the model. So you can see the forearm, all that mesh bit going into the actual puffy sleeve of the coat. And you can select everything all the way through the model, just not on the surface you see here. Okay, there is a little bit more setup we can do now to make your environment to work in a little bit better and a little bit more versatile to what you may want to do. And I can introduce you to a few useful little tricks that you might want to know for later. So eventually, you're probably going to be doing some texture editing, actually editing the 2D pictures that make up all the funny bits of the model we have here, which is why I'm waiting until now that we have a model to do this. So what I recommend you do is go over to the line that separates this big main viewpoint to the stuff on the side and right click right on that seam and click on vertical split. This makes a second view area here that you can adjust however you like. The best thing is, though, it doesn't have to be a second viewpoint. We can make it something else. Going up to the top left corner of the rightmost viewport, there's this editor type drop down. It is a little ball on top of a tic-tac-toe grid looking thing with a symbol. Go to, let's go to image editor. You can also do UV editor. It hardly matters right now. And this will provide a flat view of the relevant textures in your model. And you can choose different textures that are already in your model with this little drop down of a portrait looking thing in the top middle. And you can see all of the various things that are making up. Oh, that's what a great example to grab. You can see all the different textures of the face and the body, and the clothes are somewhere here. And this is how you can edit it. And you can just move this to the side for now if you're not going to use it. So this side panel here can view all of the images that make up your model that are already in this file. If you have a pre-made model that you've imported through a VRM or a .blend file, it is a packed image. It is packed into the .blend. This PNG right here is not a separate PNG file on your computer. It is inside of the .blend file that is this whole save environment. If you want to separate it so you can open it and edit it or anything, you need to unpack it by going up to images here in the top left and clicking unpack. This will bring this little secondary dialog up and just hit create slash texture slash whatever the texture's name is. And this will make a separate .png, I believe is the default, file on your actual computer that you can use separately. Okay, and now that you have an unpacked texture, regardless if it was packed into the file before or if it's something you created and added in, you can't really do a lot of editing in Blender on 2D images. It really just has tools for 3D things. So you can edit it in external programs. You can go through the rigmarole of just opening it manually, finding the actual address, opening it, and then refreshing. Yeah, you can press reload here. You can also set up this edit externally button right here that will automatically open your chosen image here in another program of your choice. Now, how to set that up is pretty simple. So to link Blender to an external image editing program, you can go up to Edit and down to Preferences again, and then this time go to the very bottom option on the left called File Paths, and then down to the very bottom option in that section called Applications, which is probably minimized to start. In here, there's a little place where you can click and find the .exe file for an image editor program. Put in whatever you have. If you create a GIMP, Adobe, something, whatever you have, and once you link that up, I can't link it in this video because it might dox me. But once you link that up, you can just go to this Edit Externally button, and it will open this chosen image in that program in one click, which makes it pretty easy to then edit things there. And typically there is a button to save and refresh Blender. If there's not, you can just go to images and press reload or press Alt R for the hotkey there. And that should update the texture in Blender. Okay. With everything that we've talked about here, this should be a good starting place for you to at least have a workspace to get started on messing with your model or building one yourself. We'll go through more specific things in the future. Next time, specifically, we are going to cover the details of what a VRM is, what it can do, and what it can't do, which is still very important, and I'm hoping to get that video out soon. So until then, practice a little bit, get comfortable, and best of luck.